Susanoo, the storm god who broke heaven and saved the world. Imagine a god so volatile that heaven itself can't contain him. A god who turns sacred halls into chaos and drives the sun to hide, plunging the world into darkness. And then, somehow, this same force of destruction becomes the hero of one of Japan's most legendary myths, the slayer of an 8-headed dragon and the finder of a divine sword. This is Susanoo, Stormbringer, Exile, Dragon Slayer, a kami who doesn't fit neatly into good or evil. Because in Shinto myth, a storm can be a curse, and also the thing that clears the sky. Who is Susanoo? Susanoo no Mikoto is one of the great kami of Shinto tradition, often tied to storms, the sea, and a kind of disruptive power that can either ruin everything or reshape it. He's also the younger brother of Amaterasu, the sun goddess, and their conflict is one of the most dramatic family disasters in world mythology. But Susanoo's story isn't just a warning about chaos. It's an arc, a fall, and an attempt at repair. So to understand him, we start with a scene that feels like a reset button for the universe, a ritual cleansing that gives birth to 3 divine forces. The birth of a storm. Long ago, after a journey into death and corruption, the god Izanagi returns. He's been to the underworld. He's seen what no living thing is meant to see. And now he must cleanse. In Shinto myth, purification isn't symbolic. It's cosmic technology. When Izanagi washes, the act doesn't just remove filth. It creates order. As he rinses his body, 3 powerful deities emerge. From one act of cleansing comes the sun, Amaterasu. From another comes the moon, Tsukuyomi. And from the final surge of purification comes the storm itself, Susanoo. Not a minor spirit, not a footnote, a force born from the boundary between corruption and renewal. Amaterasu takes the heavens, Tsukuyomi takes the night, and Susanoo refuses. The god who wouldn't stop crying. Susanoo is given a domain, often linked to the sea, the storms, the restless edges of the world. But instead of ruling, he collapses into grief and rage. He cries. He cries so violently that mountains wither, rivers dry, the land shudders like it's afraid. And when the other gods demand an explanation, Susanoo says he longs for his mother, Izanami, who dwells in the underworld. Whether it's sorrow, defiance, or something darker, the result is the same. His emotions become weather. His pain becomes disaster. Izanagi finally has enough. He banishes Susanoo from his post. But before Susanoo is cast out, he insists on one last thing. He wants to go to the heavens and say farewell to his sister, Amaterasu. And that's where the real trouble begins. The contest of oaths. Susanoo arrives in the realm of the sun, but Amaterasu doesn't welcome him. She's suspicious, and honestly, she has every reason to be. When a storm god shows up uninvited, it rarely means peace. Susanoo claims he's here only to say goodbye. Amaterasu demands proof. So they perform an ordeal, a ritual contest of oaths meant to reveal truth through sacred process. They exchange objects. They speak vows. And from the ritual itself, new deities are born, as if the universe is watching and taking notes. But the moment the contest ends, the peace begins to crack. Because Susanoo doesn't just want to be believed. He wants to win. And in myth, when gods treat sacred rituals like competitions, something always breaks. The warning sign. Here's the key detail. The ritual doesn't calm Susanoo down. It energizes him. It hands him divine legitimacy, and he uses it like a weapon. What happens next isn't a prank. It's an unraveling. Because Susanoo doesn't just challenge Amaterasu, he desecrates her world. The rampage that broke heaven. Susanoo begins a rampage through the heavenly realm. He wrecks sacred spaces. He destroys what is meant to be orderly. He violates taboos that keep the world stable. In some tellings, he tramples holy fields. In others, he hurls filth into places meant for purity. And then comes the moment that crosses from destruction into horror. He intrudes upon the sacred weaving hall, a place of creation, craft, and cosmic maintenance. And the consequences are catastrophic. The heavenly order, this carefully maintained balance of ritual and meaning, is shattered. Amaterasu is overwhelmed, not just angry, not just afraid. She's done. She retreats into a cave and seals it. The sun disappears. And when the sun hides, the world becomes a place where nothing can grow. Darkness spreads. Spirits become restless. Disorder takes root. Heaven has a problem that brute force can't solve. How do you bring back the sun when the sun has decided the world isn't worth shining on? How to lure out the sun? The other kami gather outside the cave, desperate. They could plead. They could threaten. But they choose something stranger, a ritual of joy. They decorate a sacred tree. They prepare offerings. They create a scene so lively that it feels impossible in the shadow of apocalypse. And then one goddess, often described as bold, ecstatic, unrestrained, begins to dance. The gods laugh. The noise rises. The celebration becomes contagious. Inside the cave, Amaterasu hears it. And she's confused. How can the world be celebrating without the sun? Curiosity cracks the door open. A mirror is placed to catch her gaze. And when she looks out, she sees her own radiance, reflected back at her, as if the universe is saying, "You're still here. The light still exists." Amaterasu steps out. The world breathes again. Light returns. But the lesson is brutal. The sun came back. But Susanoo cannot stay. And now heaven delivers judgment, not death. Exile. A 10-second recap before the turn. So far, Susanoo has been a disaster in divine form. He broke heaven. He drove the sun into hiding. And he paid for it with banishment. But exile is where this story transforms. Because the storm god is about to meet a family in tears, and a monster that no one else can stop. Exile to Izumo, a family's last daughter. Cast down from heaven, Susanoo descends to the land below, often placed in the region of Izumo. He walks through a wild landscape, still carrying the aftertaste of divine disgrace. And then he hears something that cuts through the wind. Crying. An elderly couple stands near a river, grieving. With them is a young woman, terrified, trembling, silent. Susanoo demands to know why they weep. And the couple tells him the truth. A monster comes every year. A colossal serpent, Yamata no Orochi, with 8 heads, 8 tails, and a hunger that never ends. One by one their daughters have been taken. 7 gone. Only 1 remains. Kushinada-hime. And now the serpent is returning for her. This is Susanoo's moment of choice. He can walk away, a banished god with nothing to prove. Or he can do something he hasn't truly done yet. Protect. He offers a bargain. He will save their daughter, and Kushinada-hime will become his wife. It's myth logic, a binding of fate and alliance. The couple agrees, and Susanoo begins to plan. Not with brute force, with strategy. Because you don't beat an 8-headed monster by swinging harder. You beat it by making it vulnerable. The monster you can't outmuscle. If Susanoo rushes in, he dies. If he fights like a warrior, the serpent wins. So he fights like a storm. He changes the conditions. He sets a trap. And the trap begins with one sacred ingredient. Sake. A lot of it. Yamata no Orochi, the sake trap. Susanoo prepares 8 vats of powerful sake, strong enough to overwhelm something that shouldn't be able to be overwhelmed. He places them out like offerings, 8 positions, 8 invitations. Then, in one of the myth's most striking details, Susanoo protects Kushinada-hime by transforming her, often into a comb, and placing her in his hair. A small, intimate image in the middle of impending horror. The last daughter of a doomed family, hidden against the storm god's head, as if he's finally learning what it means to guard something fragile. The ground trembles. Yamata no Orochi arrives. It's not a sleek dragon. It's a living catastrophe. A serpent so massive, it feels like a landscape that moves. Each head tastes the air. Each mouth finds a vat. And then the monster drinks. It drinks and drinks. 8 mouths, 8 vats. Until its movements slow, its eyes dull, its heads sag. The great serpent collapses into drunken heaviness. And that's when Susanoo strikes. He doesn't fight a fully awakened dragon. He executes a ritualized defeat. One head down, then another, until the monster that devoured generations finally bleeds into the earth. But the myth isn't finished. Because when Susanoo cuts into one of Orochi's tails, his blade hits something hard. Something that doesn't belong inside flesh. He pulls it free, and in his hands the storm god holds a weapon of destiny, a sacred sword. Kusanagi, a name that will echo through Japanese legend for centuries. But Susanoo doesn't keep it as a trophy. He does something unexpected. He sends it to Amaterasu, as an offering, as an apology without words, as proof that he can create consequences, and also undo them. Redemption doesn't erase the storm. Susanoo's story ends in a strange place. He's still Susanoo, still storm, still unruly. Redemption doesn't mean he becomes gentle. It means he becomes useful. A storm can destroy a harvest, but it can also bring rain. A storm can tear down a rotten structure, but it can also clear the air. In Shinto myth, purity isn't about never making a mess. Purity is what you restore after the mess. And Susanoo, the god who once turned heaven into chaos, becomes the god who saves a family, slays a monster, and returns a sacred blade as a gesture of repair. He doesn't stop being a storm. He learns what a storm is for. What Susanoo teaches. Susanoo is one of mythology's most human gods. Not because he's weak, but because he's complicated. He grieves. He lashes out. He crosses lines. And then he faces the world he helped damage. And he chooses, at least once, to protect instead of destroy. So the next time you hear Susanoo described as simply the bad brother, remember this. In the same myth cycle, he is both the reason the sun hid and the reason a daughter lived. Because sometimes, the storm that breaks the sky is also the storm that makes the world breathe again.